Welcome to the Machines and Molecules podcast. Machines and Molecules hosts guests that have backgrounds in chemistry, biochemistry, and machine learning. And our guest today is Martin Rahmel, who is the main person building up the Chemical Innovation Factory in Berlin, which is a university spin-out accelerator in the area of chemistry. Martin has also co-founded a startup about 10 years ago, and I'm looking forward very much to more chemistry as compared to the big bulk of machine learning that we had in the previous few episodes. Welcome, Martin.
Thank you, Ingmar, for having me. Great to be here.
How are you today?
Fine, super good. Everything is very positive.
That's good. So you're on an island today, right?
Yes, I'm from abroad, exiting the Christmas stress a little, but working here, which machines make that possible these days.
Yes, absolutely. Maybe as a start, can you tell me a bit about your startup experience in chemistry? I think chemistry startups are so different from these digital types of startups that especially many machine learners know. Hardware intensive, you need to get lab equipment, all of this costs money. Maybe tell me a bit about what your experience was, what you were doing back at the time, and what are the particular challenges for chemistry startups.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So maybe I start with my own experience, and then what I learned from this, now overlooking many teams, and give some insights on what are their challenges on a more general perspective. So what we did, we spun out around the research finding in the field of homogeneous catalysis, so liquid catalysts. There was a discovery made in the cluster of excellence called back then UNICAT, nowadays it's called UNISYSCAT, the cluster of excellence in chemistry in Berlin. And we could treat a specific type of catalyst that is industrial implemented in water. There were publications saying that is not feasible. And a researcher and the co-founder, the CEO later on, she discovered that, those catalysts are also applicable in water, which gave us then a different separation opportunity to extract product from the catalyst. That's very technical, and everyone said, "Yeah, okay, fine, I don't understand, or I understand, so what's the benefit?" The benefit is we could keep the catalyst active in its form and could reuse the catalyst a second time without changing anything. And this was up until then, for those types of catalysts, not possible. And as those catalysts are super expensive, even in industrial application form, and that was then the business case. So we developed a business out of that, so that we showed industry how to implement our process in their production process in order to reuse the catalyst multiple times and save catalyst cost, and at the same time having water and other sustainable solvent systems as their solvents, so having also a green impact on their processes. That was 10 years ago, a little, or even before we started in 2011, we founded 2013. So looking back, way ahead of our time. Back then, sustainability was not so important in chemistry, in the chemical industry. Nowadays, it is very much more important. That's a little bit the experience, and looking from the general point of view, what is so difficult? Well, first of all, it's a research finding that is deeply rooted in research, and bringing that to a language that industry understands, that we as the founders, as the entrepreneurs ourselves deploy it towards a business model is a path. That's not It's not a switch you switch over and then you have it. Yeah, you discuss, you develop, you grow, and that's quite a long path. Also on a personal level, plus the needed infrastructure in terms of laboratory analytics, and then plus the missing experience in founding in industry access. This is something that's an own game, yeah, which comes after research, so to speak. And I think that all the teams I see now, not all teams, actually not all teams, but all teams that are rooted in their findings from science, those teams face the same difficulties, yes. And that's where now my new job comes into play, so to speak.
So you were both technical co-founders in that case, or?
No, I was the business guy. I joined as the business guy. My background is I'm an industrial engineer in the field of technical chemistry. So yes, I do understand I understand chemistry and the engineering part especially behind it, but also the chemistry if people take their time to explain it to me. Yeah. And I always say to the team, it's a waste of time and money to put me in the lab and discover the new finding. Yeah. But once I understand what we can do as a team, then I'm pretty good in translating that into a business case and finding the people, convincing to try it out and so on. So that was basically my role. I call it business development. So I led the business development and we grew. We founded in 2013 with 0 sales in the whole year. So we hadn't one project. So I must have done a very bad job from that perspective. And I'm smiling because the first customer is always the most difficult one, as you might know. But then the second and third one are more easy, much easier. So, and that was then what happened with a Swiss company called Lonza. They gave us a chance. We are still very thankful and good relation with them, which is always the case with the first customer. You build up something very, very special. Trust is built, and on that you build up. So that was a very long relationship, or is still a long relationship with Lonza. And from that on, everything was much easier. And then we had a break even 6 years after foundation in 2018. Yeah, so that's like kind of the path.
Okay. So you did have to raise VC capital or angel capital then in the meantime?
Yeah, no, we as a founding team, we said let's not do it in this first years because we knew there are many reasons, but also we knew the time for really this scaling up game comes later. We first have to tap into the market and understand better, and this was then done. We had access to research or transfer of research, which is the highest program in Germany from the BMWK. So from Mr. Habeck nowadays. And with this money, we had the first development time, then founded the corporation in 2013. With altogether 200,000 euro. We then also applied for IBB Profit, Investitionsbank Berlin. There's a profit program, which is a debt finance. I can also tell there some interesting stories. And then later on, I think it was 2018, we raised a little angel round, and with that, and then the sales, which is the nicest financing, right? Having customers paying you the bills. With that all together, we came to a break even 6 years after foundation.
And you say, yes, very much. I have the highest respect for this because it means oftentimes means long times of perseverance that are needed and very constrained resources. So I think it can be pretty hard. I find it hard even with investment. It's really hard because you don't know whether you can make it work at all. And okay, so one person believes in you or several people believe in you when they give you money, but then also the pressure can in principle also increase through that, because it's not only about you, but also about other people. You say that many
That brings
startups
me, I
that,
don't know whether you come to that question.
yeah,
Usually I should have brought an M word, right? I don't know
yes,
whether, so this might
correct.
be, so do you want to ask me? Because this would be the ideal timing, I say so.
You're asking me whether I should ask you. Okay, so yes, it's the theme of machines and molecules that the guest brings a third M word. So what is it?
Exactly. So my M word is mindset.
Okay, tell me
It
about
is.
it. Why is it mindset?
Yeah, mindset. I chose mindset because I'm dealing with innovation on one
Mm-hmm.
side, in the other side, in the deep tech sector, in a specific deep tech sector, chemistry. So
Mm-hmm.
when you deal with innovation at the very beginning, it's just an idea. Even
Mm-hmm.
if you have scientific findings, you only have an idea of how to make this count, of
Yeah.
bringing this to market. That's just an idea. And in such a deep tech sector, you have so many exit signs along that road. There's so many signs it's not going to work. I have bad results. People tell me it's not feasible. You have your own doubts. You have no experience. You get money pressure. There are lots and lots and lots of exit signs, and you can choose each of them very easily. Every day you can say, no, I don't get out of bed. I stay here and I quit. And this is what that's why I chose mindset, because at the end it's only your belief that will bring the idea to life and to really count and really make impact. And that holds true for an entrepreneur who is spinning out from university. That holds true for someone in a big corporation who wants to change something, who has an idea. It's the mindset of yourself where everything starts, where you then convince yourself in the first place, and then other people to join. And in such times of uncertainty, which innovation is, I always said in my company to when we had new hires and also to customers, I said, what are you selling? I'm saying, okay, I am selling risk. And well, no one wants to buy risk, right?
Yeah.
So, and obviously I made a joke. I said, okay, we have certain knowledge, we can develop certain things. We have done so in the past very successfully. I cannot promise that this will be successful for your specific chemical reaction, because every chemical reaction is unique. There might be reasons why it's not going to happen. But what I can promise is, if there are reasons that's not going to happen, we will explain it why it's the case. And if there is a way, more importantly, that this will work, we will find that way. Yeah. So it's not only risk, but it's also the chance of making a business case, which is why that is the most important thing in the first place, to see what is the business case. Is it meaningful to pursue in the next step, the technical development?
Yeah. What you say here reminds me of our issues with the scientific part of our founders team. Jelena and I, two scientists, scientific mindset. We in the beginning we tended to communicate in a very scientific way, which includes telling the other person all the reasons why you might be wrong and why this might not work, and tell them about all the uncertainties and risks. Because we believed, well, that's what you need to be informed. Industry works different, investors surely work differently. If you tell them all the reasons why you might be wrong, people get doubtful, because the one heuristic that I see is much more used than I ever imagined is, how do I judge whether the person is legit? Well, if the person is confident, then probably they know what they're doing. So it's basically your confidence, your portrayal of okay, I know what I can do, and I think I can make it work also in this case. That seems to be a very important signal. And to
Mm-hmm.
marry this with honesty, that was kind of the thing I had to learn, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a really bad actor, and I couldn't just say no, everything's always going to be great. But yeah, at the same time, you're trying to tell them, yes, I really have something for you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
it's totally resonates with the first step is, and this is a process when you start a spin out, especially science based. Yeah, i- in the first place, you have to grow your self confidence
mm,
by exchanging with the inner circle. This is what is trust. This is very trust building process. You have to be very
mm,
open. Obviously, um, you can not only always take the negative point and say like all the concerns that you have. You must be able to express your concerns, but you as a team you should change that role. That not the one is
mm,
always the convincer and the other one is the challenger. You
mm,
should basically change roles, which opens your eyes on yourself, on the other person, and so on. So this is also something I learned, I think, much too late. Yeah, because
mm,
basically back then I was the concerned guy, right? I was always asking those questions, not having a confidence about the technology and so on, and having it switched earlier. That I'm the
mm,
one. Okay, that switch it. That what I would say would have helped me a lot.
mm. And what would you say helps with a mindset that is conducive to founding? Or what have you seen? What have you seen in people that didn't have the mindset?
Yeah, it's hard to tell because I like the human as an organism, as an organization, yeah, as an
Mm,
individual is the most powerful thing I've ever experienced. So
mm,
telling in advance of what someone is capable of doing or not is really hard to tell. So I would rather say, okay, that's why I see scientific entrepreneurs are more successful because they have the capacity of self-reflection.
mm,
Yeah, they are. Yeah, you can look at yourself and assess whether you are working, whether you're pursuing a logic path or
mm,
whether you are bullshitting yourself, whether you are falling into traps that someone else has put up there, that society has put up there. And if you're open-minded, you see, okay, this is just a convention. For instance, uh, I don't know if you put up the gender debate, yeah, it must male founders are more often than female founders. This
mm,
is total bullshit, yeah. But society somehow over the last 100 years has put up some traps on their path for women. So women have to overcome and be strong on that. So yeah, it's really pursuing that path, which is why I always say entrepreneurship for me your is the fastest way how you can grow because you're always at the front line. There's so many exit signs. You can always say I'm not pursuing it anymore, which is fine, yeah. But I think this constant, you always have to convince yourself I'm doing it. This lets you grow much
mm.
faster than other disciplines, I would say.
I would also say faster than doing a PhD in hindsight. But adding on top of what you said, that scientific backgrounds help to keep people in self-reflection mode, and also questioning whether this is the logic path or they are bullshitting themselves. I think the other big advantage for people that have done a scientific career, for example, before, is these people, they typically went through really hard times where they even didn't work in a team, but most of the time it's a very individualistic time. You have to get your stuff done because nobody else is going to do it for you, which gives you this responsibility. Corporate world would call it ownership, of getting the product through the door and the sales through the door. When you see the startups in the Chemical Innovation Factory, what would you say? I don't know. How long has the Chemical Innovation Factory been running, maybe, first of all?
So it's the Chemical Invention Factory, which is not a problem at all. We have some discussions around it, also with the name giver, John Warner, because it's Chemical Invention Factory, the John Warner Center for Startups in Green Chemistry. So John Warner, for those who doesn't know, is like the founder of the 12 Principles of Green Chemistry, together with Paul Einestes. He holds over 350 patents, has issued, I think, 9 startups, the latest one being in a 2-digit million figure of Amazon being funded. So he really shows the path that chemistry must do a better job in bringing innovation to market, also with startups. Like the history is pretty simple. We spun out, right, as I said, with our corporation, and back then our laboratory space was in an area which back then was used for education and the practicums. So when we figured, okay, there is no infrastructure for technology transfer, for startups, for technology transfer teams. It's just not. But we need it. So that's where, with the help of IHK, the IncuLab was built, which is a container laboratory concept at the TU Berlin. Meanwhile, under my responsibility, currently working and being operational. And back then, in the beginning, like voices have been like, oh, we don't need that. Your company is the only one. We don't need that at all, and so on. And we said, okay, what is chicken and egg problem? What comes first? Yeah, and so we said, okay, let's put the container there. And all of a sudden, we saw traction. Yeah, with the help of many people, we saw teams coming in. And then, as the politic time was correct, and we can the right timing, and also, with the first successes, also with John Warner's help, we had the idea of making that big, with an own building on campus, the Chemical Invention Factory. And and that idea was, I think, the first time mentioned in 2017. And it was around that timing when we had the political goal to do it. And since then, we have just completed the second of 3 planning phases. The BPU, Bauplanungsunterlage, is ready, Baugenehmigung, I don't know the English word. So we can now start building. And we are now in the last steps of preparing the building, which will be finished in 2026 according to current plans. Up until then, we have the IncuLab running, and the Chemical Invention Factory will become the centerpiece of the Berlin ecosystem in green chemistry innovation. Yeah.
So if I understand correctly, basically you're building labs, among other things, and an ecosystem of startups that use these labs that are typically university spinouts or very scientifically minded startups, right?
Exactly. So the Chemical Invention Factory is like steel and concrete in terms of laboratory space, analytic space, and offices, together with some communication and all the necessary storage for chemicals, and so on and so on. So fully fledged chemical building, but not for doing research, but for doing technology transfer. May it be startups, may it be technology transfer teams with like transferring technology to already established corporations. That is the infrastructure, so to speak, but that doesn't make no one more successful. It's just a building to work in. So In addition to that, I'm building around an ecosystem, like the soft factor, so to speak, industry access, mentors, community, and so on. And for this, I just received funding from the Federal Ministry of Research, BMBF, roughly 10 million euros to unify the 3 Berlin universities, TU, FU, HU, because all of those wonderful universities have institutes of chemistry, and all of them are doing a little in terms of technology transfer in chemistry, in terms of also infrastructure. But funnily, together we not only can build critical mass, but the infrastructure we are building with CIF, Scale-Up Lab, IRIS, all together, it's very complementary. So it will be a very wonderful ecosystem, not only from the side, but only from the complementary infrastructure we have at all the 3 universities. And I'm very blessed to put that together.
Why did you decide to go into helping startups, like after doing your own company?
Yeah, it's basically where does the desire come from? It's basically I'm in my private life I'm engaged in restoring ecosystem. So basically an engaged environmentalist. I'm leading an own NGO in Brandenburg in Berlin. So we are restoring river systems and seeing how difficult it is that self-sustaining ecosystems are really productive, and together with seeing the need for healing this planet, make me clear. Okay, we have 2 options. Either we just the next 3-4 generations live their lives, and then it's basically kind of over for humankind and maybe even for the planet. I mean, for living on the planet, or we try to innovate ourselves out of certain dilemmas. And I believe in the latter. I believe in, okay, humans have done what they have done or what we are doing, but we can change, we can innovate our way out of that. And I think we need all disciplines, but we definitely need chemistry. And this is why I want to build up this innovation ecosystem in green chemistry with the help of John and many, many others, and basically making impact and creating a self-sustaining, very diverse, large ecosystem, which, and why impact and entrepreneurship. I mean, my definition of an entrepreneur is someone who sees the potential that is not yet unfolded. So I see the innovation potential, but I see also the numbers. Sorry, flying here. I see the numbers, and so I see that we could at least double it, maybe not even tenfolding it. There's a recent study saying we could tenfold the potential in spin-outs in chemistry from current status.
Okay, so it's born out of the desire. Well, kind of you are going away from doing your own green chemistry startup to helping a portfolio of startups innovate, right? Would that
kind
be
of
a fair
yes,
summary?
kind of, and yes. So startups play a big role, but it's not only limited to startups. So I see that for the next 10, 15 years, that this will be the majority of innovation coming to market because of the disruptive power we currently have, which is, if you look at theory, then it says it's not the established corporations that lead disruptive innovations. It's always the new entrants. So which is why I believe the next 10, 15 years, we see lots of young, smaller companies leading change. And then some of the bigger corporations will be able to adapt and change. Others will not, and they will die, as have been the last 100 years been the case, and will always be the case, in my opinion. So, but for me, it's important to bring technologies towards market and also ask industry, where are your challenges? Yeah. What can we as scientists contribute? Maybe we already have some technologies which we have never thought of solving that kind of problem. And those are the main pillars of our approach, of the innovation approach. So it's more than just helping startups. This is a very important part, but it's not the only one. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, maybe to shift gears towards the end of the episode, can you tell us a bit more about your environmental NGO? So you said you restore river beds or river systems?
River habitats, river systems, river
Yeah.
habitats, exactly.
How did that came about, and what does it exactly mean, like concretely?
Yeah, so it all started because I'm a very passionate fisherman. And so I evolved over years to a fly fisherman, and as such, there is this NGO which I'm currently leading, which not only goes fly fishing together, but also sees the responsibility of giving something back. And we are engaged in 2 river system in Brandenburg, because Brandenburg has been in former GDR pretty heavily negatively influenced with regard to river systems, very well managed and so on. So not at all free flowing. So there we're doing a lot of work on the rivers. And one of the biggest projects we are part of is the reintroduction of salmon in Brandenburg, because this Atlantic salmon has been extinct all over Germany. And we are one of the project partners since 1999 of reintroducing salmon. And since I think it's now the 8th season, and where we are operating on hatchery, where we help the salmon become a self-sustaining stock in Germany again. So that's basically the thing we are doing.
That's interesting. How do you get the money for this from? Do you go to companies that pledge money, or?
A little. So we are part of the 1% for the Planet program from Patagonia as one of the NGOs. So we have only one corporate partner, but at least we have one. From them we receive some money. But the rest, the majority, comes from within the members. We have over 1,000 hours of honorary work each year, plus some money dedicated from the members. And then, last but not least, I don't know the English word, Fischereiabgabe. So every fisherman in Brandenburg has to pay a certain fee, and this fee comes into a pool, and you can apply for money. And so we have a 90% funding rate for doing some work related to the hatchery. But this is only investment, not the operation costs that are totally covered by the NGO. It's also very entrepreneurial. The only difference being it's not for profit, right? I'm not exactly. So we have to make liquidity 0. That's fine. We are fine with that. And this is what we achieved over the last year. I was 8 years the financial officer, and now I'm the CEO of that NGO, and have a wonderful team there, as I have also with GreenChem. And that's the similarity. The one is a natural ecosystem, but on the other side, we are humans. We should be very natural, right? So, and then we're seeing the power of diversity in GreenChem, which is the ecosystem, is kind of the same task, managing diversity, and also unleashing the potential that lies in each of our members. Because I think we have so much a mindset again. If we unleash the potential, if we accept that, we as a scientist, you start and think, okay, I'm just one scientist. What can I change? And this is the first mistake. I think each and every one of us has the potential to change dramatically. the course, how we're doing it. May it be a new technology, may it be leading a team, or both. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, if we don't try to change, change will definitely not happen. So your only chance is to try and do it. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. 100% agree.
Super, Martin. This was a very nice discussion. Thank you for being a guest in our podcast.
And thank you for
We see
listening
each
to my
other.
words.
Yes, it's super interesting. I think coming from this very digital background of mine, overall, also in our startup, but hearing about the almost pure chemical hardware side, I think that the challenges are very similar in many respects. This is also, it gives you a bit of calm, I would say, that, well, many other people are going through the same stuff.
Very much so. That's why you're also part of our community, right? So
Yes.
very happy about that. And yeah, it's exactly what you see. Each and everyone needs to have certain approaches of how to stay focused, stay calm, and there are different techniques. And you know, with regard, maybe one last sentence with regards to the current political system all over the world, I think we should embrace the fact that we are able of doing innovation and change.
Yeah.
We have all the freedom, so let's please use it. I think we have the responsibility and obligation to use our freedom and our liberty to innovate and lead the change, and not argue about, but others are not doing it. Some cannot do it, some do not have the capabilities, some do fear, some do have fears, and so on. And each and everyone has fears, including myself. It's not there's not one day where I'm not self doubt, where I've not some fears of not achieving. But it's again, we have the possibility of growing and overcoming it, and stating that each and every one of us has fears is the first step into a better future. So
Yes, very much so. Just admitting to difficult things helps already. Yeah.
Maybe not so to investors. I totally agree.
That's true. Yes, that's true.
But within your circle of trust, which good investors become once they're invested, right? Once they're invested, they're equity holders. They're part of the family.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
so that's also for me something. Who do I want to let into the circle of trust? Is that an equity? Is he worth being an equity shareholder? If you're only seeking for money and give away shares, that will lead nowhere. That will lead nowhere. So it's always a game between the two parties. It's never a one-sided game. And this is exactly, I'm always comparing GreenChem ecosystem with, because I'm a big sports fan, we are setting up the AFS stadium of innovation. So it's we build the stadium and we invite the tennis players as well as the guests and the referees and so on. But we say, we dictate what are the rules, and who is not aligning to the rules has to leave the stadium. And what you will discover is our stadium, the playing field, will be even. It will be not like this or not like this. It will be an even playing field, whether you're big, small, black, white, fat, thin, it doesn't really matter. It's an equal playing field with the same vision of let's play fair in order to change the world to a better place and make impact with green chemistry technologies. That's the analogy. And I think with that mindset, having in place, everyone is heavily welcome, because again, the ecosystem is the more powerful, the broader, the more diverse it is, and the bigger it is. So everyone is welcome to joining, as long as he or she accepts the fact that we are providing a level playing field.
Yeah. Super, Martin. Thanks a lot. See you when you're back in Berlin. back to, will you come back in winter already, or?
Yes. We will celebrate, obviously, with the family, Christmas time, and
Okay.
it's just the fact. I think again, Christmas should be a very peaceful time, and the time beforehand, everyone is looking for presents in this time, and so it's not really peaceful. So where we are currently, it is very peaceful. So we come back to Berlin to the peaceful time with a very peaceful mind. So that's our trick, so to speak.
Great.
Even with the fly, I'm very peaceful.
Even with yes, exactly. You're not trying to hit it. Super. Thanks, Martin. See you back in Berlin.
All the best, Ingmar. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
You too.